people who happened.
We spoke about when people pulling at you and there's no space for yourself.
That kind of success consumes your life so much, you don't have time to get ready for it.
Because they lived it with her.
I could tell that she was very determined. She had the passion in her eye.
It truly was Whitney's destiny to sing.
This is Driven, Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston was born in Newark at Beth Israel Hospital, August 9th, 1963. She was so gorgeous, it was frightening. They had my baby all over the hospital. That's how gorgeous she was.
She was cute as a button. Her father gave her the nickname of Nippy.
She was spoiled. Her father and her brother spoiled her.
The worst race riots since those 2 years ago in the Watts section of Los Angeles rocked New Jersey's largest city, Newark, for 5 consecutive days and nights.
We were living in Newark when the riots occurred. It was a very scary, very frightening thing for particularly a mother and father who had 3 children. The riot migrated up to our end of the town. When I was just a wreck, that was like a war. We moved from Wainwright Street to Dodge Street. We bought another house.
Sissy and John had a beautiful home in East Orange. They had a pool and pool table, so that was a good part of childhood life. We didn't have to go far to swim, and to play tennis. We were a close-knit family.
Do you know the way to San Jose?
Whitney and Dionne Warwick are first cousins.
Every single person in my family sings or plays an instrument of some sort. Whitney was around recording studios most of her formative years, basically because her mother was in the studio doing background work and or recording with Sweet Inspirations.
The Sweet Inspirations were a vocal backing group. Every record you picked up from Atlantic Records, they were on it. Most notably, of course, was Aretha Franklin. They're legends.
Sissy would bring Whitney to sessions.
I took her to the studio a lot because Aretha did a lot of New York work. She just started calling her Auntie Reed. She loved her singing. She'd sit at the table in the control room while we were out there and look through the glass. She had a lot of respect for Aretha.
When I had summer tours, we'd gather up all the kids. There had to be like 12, 15 children on the tour with us. Whitney must have been about 8 or 9 years old when she first went on the road. We refer to moms as backstage mothers, but she was a backstage baby.
My niece Dionne used to come and take them to Virginia on a private plane or Connecticut or somewhere.
She got to travel the country. Was introduced to limousines, room service. Oh, I taught her room service very well.
Whitney attended elementary school in East Orange. It was a neighborhood school, urban area.
She didn't have a lot of girlfriends or whatnot.
She was just different. She was a quiet girl.
I think most of them didn't like her because I dressed her like a little angel. She had pigtails with bows on and bangs. And they didn't like that.
Children would taunt her and tease her.
She had to wear little glasses, and I bought her the latest things. One day she came home with her glasses in her hand, and they had stomped on them. Some kids are mean, you know what I'm saying?
She needed to be around better class of people.
Soon after that, I took her out of that school. I found Mount St. Dominic's in West Caldwell.
It was a better academic program, better surroundings, better children.
It was a Catholic school. She didn't want to go there at all. But I said, I'm the mother here and you're going to do what I say. Whitney was kind of loner. She had 2 or 3 maybe friends that come over.
We played in her mom's basement. That's where all the toys are, and the great big sound system. We'd put on either Sissy or Dion. Most of the times it was Aretha Franklin.
They did the hairbrush or the broomstick or, you know, a tube of toothpaste to sing in as a microphone.
We practiced how we were going to sing when we got the chance to sing, and we just loved it.
And I bought her some high-heel shoes where she could walk in those things better than I could. Whitney would get in front of the mirror, and she'd be performing. So my father used to say, "Could you shut that kid up?" I said, "I will not. Maybe one day she'll be able to sing, you know, really good." I was in California on a tour with Aretha, and I said, "Let me call home." I said, "Something wrong." She was playing with her brothers, and they had a hanger. She was running and fell, and it went down her throat, and it almost severed her tongue palate.
When she was in the hospital for some time,
I was like devastated, you know. And the doctor said had it gone just a little bit, but she'd never talked again.
That's where prayer came in at.
We belong to the New Hope Baptist Church.
We come from a gospel singing family.
Her mother was the minister of music at the time. It was only natural that Whitney be a part of the church scene.
She sang in the junior choir, and the girl who was conducting the junior choir at that time gave her a solo. And she brought it home. She said, "Ma, you gotta help me with it." I said, "Okay, you're gonna do this, you gotta do it right."
Rehearsal was a very serious thing. We were taught to practice a lot.
Her first solo was terrific, and she tore the church up.
Whitney won raves.
Certain notes that she had just sent chills through my body.
And it was effortlessly, you know, without all the movements and, you know, not too much drama. She was able to just stand flat foot and sing.
The timbre and the fervor of her voice was something like I'd never heard before.
We were kind of used to good singing, but Whitney being so young with such a big, powerful voice, such a focused voice, that's really what made it awesome. She wanted to be like Mommy. She wanted to sing.
I didn't want her to be a singer. She told me she was going to be a school teacher or a veterinarian. I didn't want her to be in this business because I had been in it a long time, and I knew the ups and downs.
Next, Whitney's mom proves to be her toughest critic.
She would listen to anything that Sissy would tell her and always wanted her mother's approval.
I'm a very rough teacher.
She's the type of mother who took no stuff.
Then, a daughter strikes out on her own.
People were saying, "Oh, your mother, you know, she rules you." So she chose to move out, which made me very, very sad.
And later, Whitney gets her big break on the small screen.
And I kept looking at her, and looking at the screen, and being absolutely blown away. I started crying.
The Mary Griffin people told us that the phones are ringing like crazy. Who is this girl?
So 2002 was big, who knew?
The first album we did with Sissy Houston was called Think It Over, and I wanted the very best players and the best singers singing on the album. And so I called Sissy and asked her to bring in some background singers. It was Luther Vandross, and she said she was going to bring in her daughter. So I said, "Well, how old is she?" At 14. I said, "What are you, crazy?" 14, don't worry about it. Knowing Sissy, she's really a perfectionist. She would never have brought Whitney if she couldn't cut it. So I had confidence, but I was still a little bit nervous.
Had Whitney not been able to do it, Whitney would not have been at the microphone.
First time I met her, I thought she was spectacularly beautiful, but she didn't talk. If I asked her a question, she would answer me in 3 or 4 words.
I remember her to be quiet and cooperative and a sponge, just there to do the job
in a great way.
She was not nervous, and she would just pick things up immediately. Sissy would sing a part to her, and Whitney would just sing it right back, like a prodigy. I couldn't believe it. I never heard anything like it.
To see Whitney in there with all of us and holding down her part, you know, to a virtuoso degree, was amazing. I made a mental note of that, and I said, wow, this girl has got it.
Her mother coached her. Sissy is a very controlled singer. She learned that from her mother, her inflections, everything.
I tried to guide her, you know, teach her how to sing and sing it properly and how to conduct yourself.
Sissy was a very, very strict mother, but in a nice way. I mean, she didn't yell and scream or anything. She was stern.
She's the type of mother who took no stuff.
I'm a very rough teacher. You know, it's got to be right. And she used to say, Mommy, you make me feel like I don't want to go through the whole, you know, which was not my intention.
She would listen to anything that Sissy would tell her and always wanted her mother's approval.
I know Whitney was enamored by her mother on many levels, in addition to being very respectful of who Sissy is.
I started using her on a lot of background sessions. We used to wait for either Sissy or John Huston to bring her in to the sessions after school because she was so young, and we would wait. We weren't bringing her in because she was Sissy's daughter, but we were bringing her in because she was good.
I could send her anywhere with anybody, and I knew that she would do what she was supposed to. Sissy, I had done as a background vocalist. She said to me, you know, I have a daughter who sings. I said, you're kidding. She says, yeah, she sings her butt off. I said, bring her in. On my song, I'm Every Woman, Whitney and our mother, Sissy, sang backgrounds. I recall being impressed because she could handle it at 14 years old.
The Neville Brothers was recording the album Fire on the Bayou in 1981. It was a package deal to have Whitney and Sissy together to do the background. Whitney had such a beautiful and controlled voice. You know, like her mom had the same thing, but she has her own soul. You could see star written in her face, you know. I knew she was going to be big.
I met Whitney at a wedding. She was very... daughter. You gotta write me a song. I said, do you have a recording contract? She said, no. Well, I could tell that she was very determined. She had the passion in her eye.
We knew she came from good genes. Sissy Houston, you know, that's a family tree that's of note. But we still didn't hear the voice yet. I actually went to see her at a small club in New York City.
Her mom had began to take her out to the different clubs to advertise her daughter and to see what kind of feedback Whitney would get as a singer. And then eventually, Sissy gave her a shot to handle the crowd with a solo.
On my show, she'd come in on the end, and the crowd would be, you know, rocked.
She did a step out, please. You know, the chandelier fell. It was incredible.
I felt nothing but pride.
It's like watching a flower bloom before your very eyes, you know. She wasn't yet groomed, but there was no doubt this was a rose.
When she was working in Sweetwaters with her mom, people came out to see her mom, of course, and then they would hear Whitney, and then she got offers.
I'd written a song called Life's a Party, and asked Whitney if she would sing lead vocals on it.
'Cause life's a party, everyone comes to.
That was her first record, and of course she was fantastic. My partner and I decided we wanted to try to sign her to a recording contract. I thought she could have hit records. I thought she had everything. She had the voice, she had the looks. It was a home run.
I was very vocal about her getting her own record deal and having her own career.
Sissy wouldn't let us do it. She said she's too young, she's got to go to high school.
The mom was very, very, very strong about the fact that she had to finish school before any kind of aspirations of doing anything other than graduating.
There was always something somebody wanted her to do, and that was as far as I would let it go at that time, because she was a baby.
We tried and tried and tried, and Sissy just wouldn't give in.
Next, Whitney's solo career gets off to a rocky start.
She pretty much said that she was going to do whatever she wanted in her song.
You could tell that she was really kind of panicking. She was trying to hold herself together. She was getting kind of shaky.
Then, a young singer turns down a TV legend.
She knew she was a good enough singer that she was going to do very well without being on The Cosby Show.
Later, the industry's top songwriters take a pass on Whitney.
Clive was having problems finding producers for the project.
There were a couple people there who didn't see the greatness in Whitney.
Whitney started modeling, I guess she was around 16. We had been in New York, and we were coming down by Carnegie Hall.
We had a scout that used to stand out in the streets and look for people they thought that might be appropriate for the agency.
He said, she's so beautiful. You ought to take her upstairs to the Click agency. I said, you want to go? And she says, I don't care, Mom, what you think? I said, why not? I said, you never know unless you try. They like flipped over her.
Whitney was commercial looking, and she was tall enough and had the bone structure from head to toe. So it was easy sell. And she was a girl of color, so it was nice for us to have somebody who looked like that, who we could get to editors like Mademoiselle or 17 magazine.
I just happened to be in an airport, picked up a 17 magazine, and there she was. Wait a minute, I know that face.
For Whitney in high school, it was busy. She might have had a session or a shoot and then got to homework later.
When she felt like she had gotten behind a little bit in her studies, she said, Mommy, I can't model anymore this month, because I've got up on her studies. I need to graduate, Mom.
She was becoming a very successful model.
It could have been so much more, but she really didn't have the greatest interest in it.
It was a stepping stone.
The passion surely was not there for modeling. I think the passion was naturally there for singing.
First time I saw Whitney was at the Bottom Line. She was performing with her mother. And the friend that was sitting next to me said, hey man, you should really sign her, And I said, well, she's good. She's got promise, but I don't think she's quite ready yet.
Whitney was still working with her mom here and there.
When she started to get older, it was difficult. There were things she wanted to do by herself, so she couldn't do them living with me. People were saying, oh, your mother, she rules you. So she chose to move out, which made me very, very sad. I realized that she was growing up and she could do it.
Once she was sure that I am what I think I am, there was no stopping her.
Her father hired Gene Harvey to be her manager to get her career going.
Gene was a concert promoter, and he did quite a few concerts for me. It was really nice to see that someone that the family was well acquainted with was going to be at the helm of guiding her career.
So it was time to put her out there and let a bigger scope of people hear her.
Material was a project that I put together. It was kind of mixing jazz and rock and funk music.
It really wasn't a band. It was almost a production team.
The album was complete except for one song.
We were busy scratching our head, who's going to fit the bill on this? Bruce Lundvall, who was the president of Elektra at that point, started suggesting Whitney Houston. And you're like, who? How come I never heard of her before? What else has she done? I wanted some crotchety old R&B singer who'd kind of been there and done that.
So I said, well, we're out of time, so we'll try anything.
She came to the studio.
I was expecting that she was going to be a bit of a brat.
Everything was just real standoffish.
She pretty much said that she was going to do whatever she wanted in her song.
I was like, oh man, we're going to get a couple whiny squeaks out of this one, and that'll be the end.
Whitney sang on Memories. It was a ballad.
But she was very confident.
She basically pretty much nailed it until we got to one line. She just lost it right there. She started singing the line out of pitch. You could tell that she was really kind of panicking. She was trying to hold herself together. She was getting kind of shaky. All of a sudden, like magic, she snaps out of it, gets the pitch. She goes through the rest of the song, boom, finished.
Can hang you up and haunt you.
Memories was definitely perceived as a possible break for Whitney.
It was so obvious that her voice was the right voice to put on that particular song.
The label attempted to make Memories a single, but didn't really fly right away, so they didn't pursue it any further.
Anyone with half a brain could have seen that Whitney couldn't have stayed being this little girl just kind of doing guest spots on people's records like this. It just wasn't going to happen.
I got a call from a manager named Gene Harvey who said, I'm working with a singer, but she's also interested in doing some acting. He was obviously looking for audition opportunities. Whitney walked in the door and was just so beautiful and so full of charisma. She glowed. I remember, just thinking, my God, if she can speak, she's going to be a big star.
When we first started The Cosby Show, we went back to New York to look for the parts of the children and the wife. And then this young girl walked in for the part of Denise, and her name was Whitney Houston.
She seemed somewhat shy, and the moment that she started reading the scene, she just came alive.
When Whitney read New York, she was very good.
They screen tested her with some other young actresses.
What we were going to do is gather all the people together out in California to read with Bill Cosby. We had to have everybody sign the contract before they went in the room, and if they didn't sign the contract, we just couldn't take them. Whitney came up to me and said, I can't sign this contract because I can't be in every show. And I said, why? She said, well, I want to be a singer. I want to be able to tour. She knew she was a good enough singer that she was going to do very well without being on The Cosby Show. So she turned us down.
She was on the path of becoming a singer, and her manager was determined to get her a recording deal.
I got a call from a friend who said, do you know an artist named Whitney Houston in Arista Records and wants to sign her? I said, oh my God. I almost blew my top because I figured I might have blown it. I called her manager, Gene Harvey, and Gene said, oh, she's performing this weekend. Why don't you come down to see her? I was absolutely floored. I couldn't believe this little small, skinny teenager, singing like a diva. It was incredible. I could see the confidence that wasn't there before. She had matured quite a bit. The next day I went to my boss, Clive Davis. I just stormed into his office and said, you're not going to believe how great this artist is.
I was told that she was singing in her mother's act, and I should just pick a night and go down there. I clearly was transfixed. She had an amazing talent.
He was so impressed that the next day he said, we're going to do this deal.
There were other companies that were interested in Whitney, but I think between her mother, my relationship with Aretha, my relationship with Dionne Warwick, the odds were in my favor.
Clive Davis was romancing her. He recognized that she would be the next worldwide diva.
I chose Arista because I knew Clive from the business, and I knew what kind of promoter and what kind of business person he was. I thought that was the best scene for her at that time.
So the negotiations began.
We sat down and we talked about it, and we were satisfied with the kind of scope that he had planned out for Whitney.
She was excited when she came in and signed the contract. She sort of bounced in and, with her cool self. So she was very proud. Something about your kid breaking through. It was quite a happy occasion.
With Whitney, we started from scratch.
Clive was having problems finding producers for the project.
People didn't know who Whitney was.
Because Whitney was a newcomer. She was an unproven entity.
We brought her around to many major producers, and they didn't get it. And one even told me, it's going to be a lot of work. I don't think I want to get involved with this.
There were a couple people there who didn't see the greatness in Whitney.
Like, what the heck is going on here?
So I went to my proven relationships, to those that had been hit makers.
I said, oh, this is a good singer, but I don't quite know how I can make a great record with her.
I knew that Whitney did need a strong producer who could direct her voice.
I actually delayed for an entire year committing to the project.
It became very frustrating after a while because we could not find the songs.
I had the best writers, both in the East as well as in the West, come to hear Whitney sing.
It's like finding a diamond in the rough. We wanted to make sure that it was cut properly, and that some of the songs were the best songs for her.
It was very vital that the material be up to the performing level of the talent. You have to wait for the real goods to be delivered.
Next. the stress of the studio takes its toll.
Whitney didn't understand why she had to come back the same night and do 40 or 50 takes.
I remember Whitney saying to me, how can you stay in this business this long?
Then, and later, Whitney breaks all barriers.
Whitney was one of, and maybe the first of the young group of African-American singers that crossed over to everyone.
Log on to VH1.com to see rare footage and photos of Whitney's earliest performances. Go to VH1.com for everything Whitney. Read news, listen to songs, buy CDs, and more.
Whitney Houston's album did take approximately 2 years.
It really was a slow process.
I don't think that she was prepared for the rigorous activity and the level of demand that it would take to get this career going and to maintain it.
It was simply a question of learning the songs and working hard at it.
Sometimes she'd call and say, hey, I'm tired, I don't feel like coming in today. And of course I would say, look, you better get your line in the studio. I drove all the way from Brooklyn.
We didn't know if she had the stamina it takes to like hang out in the studio.
Whitney didn't understand why she had to come back the same night and do 40 or 50 takes.
And I remember Whitney just coming up and laying her head on my shoulder and was like, oh, I'm so tired. And she just fell asleep because she was exhausted.
When you're in the studio and you're rolling, you're focused on having a baby. You get very, very myopic.
Her mother was there to cheer her on when things got a little tough. You know, it helps to have a mom who's been there and done that and can help you stay focused.
The pressure is enormous.
I remember Whitney saying to me, how can you stay in this business this long? It's not a 9-to-5 job. If it's not what you want, then don't do it.
The process of recording was slow, but it was exciting because as each cut came out of the studio, it just felt powerful and felt special. We knew that we were launching a talent to be heard around the world.
Clyde came up with the idea of putting her on television.
Merv Griffin said, whenever you run across a talent that blows you away, I want you to bring her on my show.
You either got it or you don't have it. She's got it.
She got it. Wait till you hear her. Here's Whitney Houston.
She sang the song, like, who is this girl?
You won't forget that name, Whitney Houston.
I was talking to Clive Davis about my record deal at Arista Records. Then all of a sudden he said, put your producer's cap on. I want to show you a tape of an artist and tell me what you think. So he put this tape in and there was Whitney singing.
I've seen it in the movies.
And I said, what I think that we could do is do a sort of Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell type thing.
They had a terrific creative relationship.
My duty during that time was to get some great duets done, and we sort of started getting a chemistry.
So I'm at home, I think I had the flu that week, and I'm sort of looking at these horrible daytime TV shows, you know. And all of a sudden, who appears on the TV? It's Jermaine and Whitney on As the World Turns.
You touch my heart in places that I never even knew. 'Cause nobody loves me like you do.
We didn't really realize the outreach that show had, and a lot of people afterwards told me they saw us on there, how great it was.
Clive was always used television so amazingly effective for his artists, you know, because he would always say, "Oh, it's cheap advertising," and it always works.
About 1984, I got a call from Gene, and he said to me, "Ben, I really believe in this woman, and I'd like you to be involved."
Even though she had a record that was about to come out, I think he was trying to cover all of his bases to get her around to TV networks and studios. After meeting her, I sent her to 4 or 5 producers who were doing shows where I thought she could be usable. And one of them was the show Give Me a Break.
Whitney and her manager, Gene Harvey, came to my office. She walked in the room and I was like, whoa. They brought in the tape of the Merv Griffin show. They put it in and we watched it together, and I kept looking at her, and looking at the screen, and looking at her, and being absolutely blown away. I started crying.
I know you're listening, Lord.
It was the soul of a 70-year-old woman singing in a beautiful 20-year-old body. I knew she would be able to say, pass the salt if that was the line. And this episode was about Carrie Michelson's character wanting to open up a boutique of some sort with her friend, and Whitney played her friend.
Oh, no, we designed these clothes because we plan on selling them. We're opening a boutique.
You don't really get very much help when you do a show like that. The coaching is sort of minimal.
Now, don't blame Katie for all this. Actually, the boutique was my idea.
Your idea? That does it! No more black friends for you girls.
I think she didn't do another episode because she was good but not great.
This was somebody who needed something that was worthy of her talents.
I was doing an album on Teddy Pendergrass. We only had a couple weeks to do it, and I chose an unknown singer who I heard once, Whitney Houston.
The opportunity of my new discovery, having a shot to duet with Teddy, was great.
Well, the song that she recorded with Teddy was Hold Me. Wonderful duet.
The trick was to be able to get Whitney's voice tamed and effective so it didn't overshadow Teddy.
I heard it on the radio and I said, that's Whitney, that's my baby.
Hold Me in Your Arms was Whitney's first professional recording that hit the charts.
The duet that they did kind of started putting her in people's ears. Who is this Whitney Houston?
To the 10th anniversary of Arista, we're having a major night, and we were going to have a show.
It was like all of Clive Davis's parties, full of people that you either know or you would love to get to know.
It was a very glittering, glamorous night.
He provides an enormous array of incredible, talented people performing.
And I asked Whitney if she would sing. This really, was show me time as we were approaching the release of the album.
Whitney has a wonderful way of rising to the occasion.
Of course, she made the night her own because she was dazzling. People were hypnotized and mesmerized.
The little girl is bad. She brought the house down.
She just came on as a performer to help celebrate the night. But that evening goes by and you still got to come with a hit record.
You never know what is going to happen with an album.
That's a tremendous amount of pressure.
It's like a hit and miss business, Who knows what's going to happen?
Next, Whitney makes her mark.
There had been no diva since Diana Ross that the public could wrap their arms around and get behind.
But struggles with the price of fame.
We spoke about when people pulling at you and there's no space for yourself.
Everybody wants a piece of you in some way.
It's all a part of showbiz. Nobody put you in this. This is something you chose.
This Wednesday at 9 p.m. an ABC primetime television event. Whitney Houston, Diane Sawyer.
Do you feel betrayed?
Nothing's off limits.
Is it alcohol? Is it marijuana? Is it cocaine?
The rumors.
How scared did you get?
Scared. Her marriage.
Has he ever hit you?
And her music.
What's the very highest point of this career?
Diane Sawyer, Whitney Houston, one night only. This Wednesday at 9 p.m. on ABC.
Which hot and fresh artist had drive from the start? Find out next on VH1's Driven.
Whitney was very excited about her first album.
The songs were excellent, perfect, Everything was just right on the money.
Arista was expecting big things for Whitney.
In the record business, you don't know what's going to be a hit and what isn't going to be a hit.
Not that there was a pre-existing national audience for a Whitney Houston album. You got to say, my God, which should be the first single? How do you choose among these cuts?
You want to stop the traffic on a freeway with a beautiful ballad.
You Give Good Love was, just like a killer song.
We finished the song on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, every R&B station in the country was playing You Give Good Love.
She was head and shoulders above other new acts that were coming out at that time.
Suddenly, it's gangbusters. You Give Good Love just kept selling and selling and selling.
When You Give Good Love came out as the first single, I was elated. But at the same time, I was quite surprised because it was really an R&B track.
I didn't try to say this is an R&B singer. This was someone that was soulful with an unbelievable range.
The focus was always on crossover, and the songs that we gave her were obviously geared to that. We needed something that had some drive and some feel to it, maybe had a dance groove to it, and it was How Will I Know.
How Will I Know came out and just solidified what perked everyone's ear up. That's when everything just blew. It was like Mount St. Helens erupted or something.
That was it. Pow!
The album came out, and when we hit 250,000, we're like, yeah, oh, that's great. And then it went to 500,000, and we're like, oh my God, we've died and gone to heaven.
Whitney was one of, and maybe the first of the young group of African American singers that crossed over to everyone.
There was no color line at all. It was white or black. It didn't make any difference.
She had an appeal that was universal. It didn't just appeal to some small corner of the market. Everyone realized that it was something that was not accidental. This was the genuine thing.
The world was ready for Whitney.
Whitney was a rising star. She hadn't attained superstar status, but she was on the verge. She was one, mega hit away from that.
I wrote The Greatest Love of All for the movie The Greatest, which is about Muhammad Ali.
Originally, George Benson had recorded The Greatest Love of All for me.
I said, Clive, The Greatest Love of All is one of the best songs I wrote, and I need a goddess of some kind to sing it, to put it across. Sissy said, if you can sing this one, you can sing them all.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, if you're going to do a remake, then you better do something new with it.
She turned...
Whitney Houston's album worldwide sold over 20 million copies. It was a hit everywhere in the world.
There had been no diva since Diana Ross that the public could wrap their arms around and get behind. So the timing was great. We were in a restaurant in New Jersey, and we couldn't eat dinner because people kept coming over to the table. Oh, you, Whitney. Oh, can I have your autograph? And I remember thinking to myself, she has no idea of what's happening here.
The pressure on an artist is so incredible.
We spoke about when people pulling at you and there's no space for yourself.
Everybody wants a piece of you in some way.
It's all a part of showbiz, Nobody put you in this. This is something you chose.
I once asked Whitney Houston if people have an attitude, are they jealous? She said, Michael, God gave me who I am. I'm not going to apologize.
She was nominated for 3 Grammy Awards.
It was pretty much, I hope I win, I hope I get it.
Now for Best Pop Vocal Performance Female.
I was given the honor of calling the nominees for that particular award.
Whitney won the Grammy for Saving All My Love for You.
It was an honor to have Dionne give Whitney her first Grammy. That was the ultimate, to receive the award from family.
It was a very emotional experience.
My family was kind of used to stardom. Dionne had been up there and out there and done it, and here comes Whitney.
Producer of the show said it was the longest hug in television. I was just so proud of her.
It's like, wow, what a moment. It's one of those things that brings tears to your eyes.
It was a great, great night. I just cried, and I just couldn't take it.
Whitney was so happy. Her mother, her father, everybody, they looked so proud.
It's not like Little Whitney no more. It's not like Sissy's daughter. Believe this? It's just Whitney Houston.
That was history. Yeah, that was some kind of nostalgia.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Whitney knew from the beginning that she was destined for greatness.
Whitney has got Dionne in her, but she's also got Sissy with Aretha style. And I know she draws upon those great people constantly because they're in her life, they're in her blood.
The music and the singing is in her heart. It's in her DNA.
It's the old adage, the apple doesn't fall that far from the tree.
Her family gave her a certain challenge, something she had to live up to. And I think that's what really drove her forward. Say, I can do that. I can be just as great.
She loves to sing. It's part of her life. It's part of her soul.
She had every ingredient that she needed and a great family background behind her. It was like an unstoppable package, We should all be so lucky.